I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
No.
Vice President Joe Biden announced today that he will not run in the Democratic race for president, but that doesn't mean he wasn't heavily considering jumping into the race, and that's a great place to bring in our roundtable. And joining us today, we're happy to have back Democratic media strategist Franco Ripple, also with us, attorney and political strategist Chelsi Henry. Thank you both for joining us. Good to have you.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so last night, Vice President Joe Biden made a remark that kind of took a stab at Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, just a little bit. Basically said it's naive to think the country can be governed without working with Republicans.
I still have a lot of Republican friends. I don't think my chief enemy is the Republican Party. This is a matter of making things work.
His comments followed the first Democratic debate where Hillary Clinton said her proudest enemy is the Republican Party, one of them. Chelsi, why do you think Biden would make these remarks if he wasn't planning on running?
You know, it's very unfortunate for the Democratic Party that Vice President Joe Biden decided not to run, because he was their best candidate that they would have out there, especially from what we see here today. When you think about his comments, it's the truth. I mean, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, of course, I'm a Republican, but listen, Democrats are not the enemy to me. We just happen to believe differently, but we're all humans. We're all here to help solve issues that face everyday Americans. And so he was being himself. The vice president was just being honest. Listen, to move the country forward, we have to get away from saying that the other side or someone who believes differently than me is the enemy. It's just the opposite side of the aisle or the opposite side of an issue.
Franco, some of us were speculating that we thought maybe he was going to jump in. That was until after we saw the Democratic debate. Do you think the environment changed after that?
Well, I think
no, I don't. And first of all, to my friend on the right, I completely agree that someone like Joe Biden does not view the Republicans as enemies. I don't even think necessarily Hillary Clinton does. I think it's a product of the polarizing political environment that we're in. In fact, there's a saying that they say in the U.S. House, which is it's not the other side of the aisle that's the enemy, it's the Senate. That's where progress goes to die. But no, I don't think the calculus changed for him in the race because of the debate. I think it's simply he did the right thing, which was to put all the infrastructure in place to be able to run. And then his head was there and he made a decision with his heart. And it's probably the right decision.
I think there was another indication yesterday, Franco, that may have been kind of showing us that Joe Biden may have been considering running up until the very last minute. Listen to what he had to say about the Osama bin Laden raid.
I told him my opinion, that I thought he should go, but follow his own instincts. I never, on a difficult issue, never say what I think finally until I go up in the Oval with him alone.
Now, there are some reports from folks inside the administration that say that's not exactly accurate. Yesterday, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest refused to weigh in on this issue. Franco, I think that Joe Biden was trying to do everything he could right up until the very end to get enough support to run for the presidency, but it just wasn't there.
Well, I think with those comments about the Osama bin Laden raid, I think he's been consistent throughout that he said he had a couple of reservations. He wanted a little bit more drone surveillance first. He wanted to know for sure before doing it. But ultimately, he said consistently throughout, not only is it the president's call, but the president should follow his instincts, because his instincts have nearly always been right. And that's been borne out throughout his presidency. But, I think the draft Biden movement, my hat's off to them. Without a candidate in the race, they did a phenomenal job of building a real grassroots groundswell of support. And ultimately, the vice president decided his heart wasn't in it. It's with his family, and that's the right call. But I do continue to believe, as I have all along, Hillary Clinton will win the Democratic nomination. She'll win the presidential election, and she'll be a great president.
All right, Chelsea, last word to you.
Well,
about
we
a minute
definitely
left.
disagree on that latter part.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something, Chelsea, because there is some speculation, too, that Joe Biden knew he wasn't going to run, was talking it up yesterday to keep people interested, but he waited until today, the day before the Benghazi hearing, to make this announcement. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the Vice President Joe Biden, he has been around. He's been in politics. He knows. I think he made a strategic move. And I really thought that some of his words that he said today were from his heart. He had to take in so many different considerations, not only looking at the poll numbers, not only looking at the first Democratic debate. He had to take into his family and what him and his family's been through in the future. And so I think with many of his remarks today, it was some of the opposites of how we've seen Secretary Hillary Clinton campaign. And so I thought that it was very interesting.
You mentioned it. Many remarks today from Joe Biden. That was kind of a long speech. I guess he's not going to get a chance to make a stump speech, so he had to get it all in today. We've got a lot more coming up with Franco and Chelsi. You guys stick around. We got part 2 of the roundtable coming up. We're going to talk about Jeb Bush. Is he really in trouble? We're going to look at New Hampshire specifically. He's not doing so well in the polls. He spent a lot of money, or at least the super PAC has, on campaign commercials. No traction there. Plus, President Obama's approval ratings, I don't want to say through the roof, but when you look at where President Obama is during his presidency.
I think a lot of people would find it, I hate overusing that word surprising, but a little surprising,
considering some of the challenges he's faced on the foreign policy front. What it means for the 2016 campaign, now that we know that Joe Biden's not going to be in the race. So
could mean a lot. Also ahead, the tumor rumor. Have you heard about this one? That forced the Vatican to issue a statement. And Father Petrie joins us to discuss Pope Francis and his controversial new direction for the church. He's been
really that controversial?
He's been making a lot of headlines there
Father
lately.
Petrie will clear it up for us.
Well, we'll find out. And will others follow him or put up a fight? We'll talk about that more next. Joining us on the roundtable, Democratic media strategist Franco Ripple and attorney and political strategist Chelsi Henry. Thanks for sticking around.
All right, guys, let's start with you, Franco. After a heavy month of campaigning and campaign ads across New Hampshire and other key states, Republican presidential candidate Jeb Bush does not seem to be climbing all that much higher in the polls. Bloomberg Politics reports that former Florida Governor Jeb Bush might be in trouble, saying, quote, advertising on Jeb Bush's behalf has failed to boost his support, and likely Republican primary voters there view him as inferior to frontrunner Donald Trump on most key attributes. Franco, is Jeb Bush in real trouble here?
Well, he's certainly not in the catbird seat, as it were. It's not an enviable position to be in. In the latest poll that came out, with Donald Trump at 32%, he's way back in 4th place. And I think that's not a good place for him to be at this point. It's concerning, if I were him, it would be concerning to me that the advertising, that heavy of an investment in a state where media markets are not that expensive, to not move the needle at all or to lose ground is concerning. But also in that poll, I found there's trouble for him in that now 4 in 10 primary voting Republicans believe that Trump will be the nominee. And that's a real switch from previously where Trump's electability was found to be lacking. That's really starting to shift. And the summer of Trump is turning into the fall of Trump. And oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of consternation right now amongst the establishment wing of the party that Trump could actually be the nominee. Chelsi, you're from Florida. What do you think about your guy, Jeb Bush? I mean, it's not looking too good for him. I also saw a Florida poll, I think, where he was down in the single digits.
You know, that's one of the great things about polls is that it's gauging where people are at this exact moment. This presidential election cycle has been like none other. At the end of the day, Jeb Bush is the man. Yes, I'm a Florida girl, and so I believe that the governor would be the best Republican nominee and can win the White House. We're still early in the game, and I think everyone needs to keep that in mind. Part of what you're reading in these polls and what people are saying is that they anticipate and they see that Donald Trump could be the nominee. But the only reason why they see that is because the media continues to give him the spotlight. But when it comes back down to the issues, what's going to concern Americans when they go to sleep at night, if they're going to be able to have food in their refrigerator, what happens, you know, when they are released from prison, these very critical issues in America, Jeb Bush is a man of policy. He's a man of substance. And I truly believe that at the end, when it all comes down, Governor Bush has a great chance to win the nomination and become our next president. So it's still very early.
Well, I would say that the media is not necessarily shining a bright spotlight on President Barack Obama, but that's not hurting him at all when it comes to his job approval rating. In fact, it's reached a 2-year high. According to a new ABC News Washington Post poll, 51% of voters approve of how the president is doing his job, with 45% disapproving. Now, take a look. That's in comparison with former President George W. Bush. At the same time in his presidency, his approval stood at just 31%, with a disapproval rating hovering around 66%. That's according to Gallup poll records. If Hillary Clinton now were to get the nomination, which, you know, Franco is really hoping she does, she would not only have President Obama campaigning on her behalf, but also former President Bill Clinton. With approval ratings like this, Franco, how much will it affect the race?
Well, look, first of all, President Obama's approval numbers, shall we call them, dare I say, Reagan-esque. President Obama is enjoying a beautiful sunset to his presidency, much like the beloved President Ronald Reagan to Republicans has. And that's because he's made decisions that are in the best interest of the country. Bill Clinton being out there on the stump, of course it helps. His numbers are stratospherically high as well. The interesting thing here is that Hillary Clinton really, what she has to do, she's going to stake out her own path, but she needs to run as an extension of the Obama legacy. And she's not going to do that exactly because she is her own person. She's a strong-willed person. She has her own ideas, and she should, and she's going to run on her own platform. But the president is leaving her with a great legacy to run on. And in some ways, it's kind of like what Al Gore should have done in 2000. Run on one of the greatest presidents of the 20th century in terms especially of the economy and all the jobs that were created. Run on the previous guy's record. So I think she might do a little bit of that.
Chelsi, we only have a few seconds remaining, but last word to you, your thoughts.
Well, this is the 2016 elections. We're still in 2015. There's so much time to go. When you look at the president's approval rating, you know, part of it is that he went against some of his own campaign promises because he realized that the legacy that President Bush had left and the things that he had put in place, there was some substance and there was success in that. And so that's another reason why we see the president's approval ratings where they are.
Chelsi and Franco, thanks so much for joining us during our roundtable. Always good to have you.
Thanks for having us.
Donald Trump was supposed to be here tonight. And now he's glad he didn't come, I guess. Last night, his people called late last night and canceled on us. Don't worry. Tonight, we're going to give everyone in the audience a basketball dipped in cologne so you can fully experience what it would have been like had Donald Trump been here.
Never cancel on a comedian or the jokes will fly your way. We have more flying your way next with your headlines and punchlines. You're watching Newsmax Now.